Jonathon Burch, Acevedo, and today I'm going to be teaching Eric. Eric about the Catholic teachings on pornography and its effect in the youth. Effect on everyone, but notably the youth. So here I've got some notes, and we're going to start off firstly by the rise of it in recent times, because it's always been a problem. And right here, I believe it says that porn and the exaltation of violence are age-old realities, but they have taken on new dimensions and have become serious social problems in recent decades. And the reading then digresses into how modern technology, social media, the phone we're recording this on, all that kind of stuff, has led to the intense and unprecedented rise in pornography and its significant easy access to the youth. And throughout all the readings, they emphasize the easy access to the youth and how this isn't only a problem affecting everyone, but very, very notably the youth. Those of us who are more impressionable have been growing up in this standard, and I believe it has impacts on relationship, morality, family, and of course many other things. Eric, what's your question?
Is there an age that usually the youth get affected on? Like, is there like a specific age range?
So in our readings, there wasn't a specific, like they didn't go too deep into statistics on like what age it tends to affect people, but I'm sure you could find that online. Statistics regarding for men, for girls, for teenage boys, teenage girls, where that starts to become a problem, what demographics it's a heavier problem for. You know, they got statistics for all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the main focus of our teachings were more on it has these effects, so let's dive into those effects and how we can fix them. But I'm sure there's a substantial amount of statistics for the details like that. Furthermore, it was talking about how our ordinary experiences, like I just mentioned previously, the impacts on relationships and family life, our ordinary experiences that may have absolutely nothing to do with sexuality or violence have been affected by these, whether that be a joke you crack with one of your boys in the gym or any other experience, to experiences that involve violence and sexuality. Our vision and our morality is being confused and tainted through these experiences that are happening to many of us at much too young of an age with too much frequency, that it's not just affecting the relevant scenarios, but every scenario. It's changing our literal moral compass, and that is a problem that the Catholic Church deems urgent and needs to be fixed. And I believe there is a specific quote. Yeah, so in the first reading, they posed that we shall speak here of 7 sectors with obligations, urging a multifaceted response. And it went into how public authorities, professional communicators, our communities, educators, parents, and a few other sectors, as it was referred to, are not necessarily responsible, but should feel the need to put a foot in the door and try to stop this problem while we can. And then lastly, the readings conceded that, you know, in modern days, there's been technology, there's been uprisings, different kind of stuff, a revolution in the way we live our life, and this has undoubtedly brought change for the better. We have a much more apt awareness of social injustices, of violations of human dignity. We're able to get access and solutions to those kind of things better than ever. I mean, what's going on in the Middle East right now, if that was 20, 25 years ago, the average 16-year-old wouldn't be hearing about it. It would just be a discussion between the political minds of the United States. Nowadays, we have access to those kind of things, and it has brought change for the better. But these changes, according to the reading, while good and necessary, are being outshined by excess change for the worse. So they're saying that the evils of our revolutions are starting to outweigh the goods of what we brought from it, because we ourselves are running rampant with the opportunities that these technologies are providing us. And I just want to go into, just put a little emphasis on how easy it really is, specifically regarding porn. The first reading discussed how our revolution has made these things easier and the effects it has. Then the next two went very deep into the effects, the moral confusion that many young people have and many older people are experiencing as well, but most notably amongst the youth. And then the last one kind of went into just... What's up, Eric?
So to clarify the effects, is there also, not only but like on the morality and dignity of a human, but also does it affect them biologically or?
Biologically, yes, there is effects. Like I said earlier, the readings didn't concern themselves too much with statistics regarding demographic or biological effect, but it did glaze over just for a second or two about how these actions in excess with pornographic websites and similar things like that have had biological effects on young males specifically. It went into young males. It didn't mention young females, but I'm sure there's an effect there regarding testosterone and estrogen levels. But that wasn't the main focus of the readings. But yes, there is biological effects from decreasing testosterone to unhealthy habits and other symptoms from that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then what I was getting into, the logical effects it's having. So in the last one, they described our actions that need to be changed as a good towards which the only proper and adequate attitude is love. We need to fix this problem through that attitude. And then that digressed into sex in regards to marriage and how the Catholic teaching is marriage. And it not only does it degrade the human being, pornography, it doesn't just degrade the human being, it also degrades that sacrament. It says their definition was pornography involves removing sexual acts from the intimacy of partners, displaying them to a third party, thus perverting the conjugal act. And so the conjugal act is referring to matrimony and how the intimacy that is meant to be reserved for those two partners is now being shared freely with anyone, often for free. It's a lucrative business, and anyone from 12 to 60 can go find somebody else's experiences with a partner that are meant to be intimate and private, shared with the world to see. And of course, that's degrading the person. It's degrading their human dignity. It's objectifying them. But it's also, and this is, I believe, in my opinion, a point of pornography and its spread that isn't talked about enough. It is also degrading the sacrament of marriage. Any other questions, Eric?
Kind of to clarify. So, like, it just overall just destroys the view of each other and kind of like just destroys like when a person sees porn, it just kind of destroys their view of another person. Like, I see this instead of an actual human being.
Yeah, 100%. That's a perfect viewpoint. Like I said, it ruins our views on our own relationships with the opposite gender. It can ruin our interactions with family, ruin our interactions or views and thoughts of people that we don't even know, societal life, just about everything. And it goes into the ordinary actions, and it's having a biological and moral effect on the way that we think, the way that we act, and the way that we see those around us. And it's an issue that isn't easily solved because it's also accessible on the internet for free with no barrier. But it's a problem that the Catholic Church urges we attack with love.
Okay. Well, thank you for teaching me. So now I'm going to teach you about workers' rights. And so from the first website, or the first part of the research, I'm going to start off with a quote. So it says, economic matters respect for human dignity, and it requires temperance. So, workers' rights is obviously an important thing, right? And it's been talked about many times by the Pope, and not only that, it's been around for ages and ages since I'd say the dawn of times. Like in the Bible, it also talks about like the
slavery,
the chosen people,
the children in Exodus,
From then and then to the times, I guess more recent times, like the Atlantic slave trade, I'm talking about, and then to the modern times and the National Farm Workers Association, and then the whole like our workers' rights and all that, and not only that, but also taking away the rights of a worker is also considered theft. If you think about it, it kind of just it destroys that the commandment of you shall not steal. If you know what I mean. So just taking away the rights is just kind of like expanding on that type of issue. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't mean perspective on it. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to steal. Like, I'm gonna steal your pen. It's more also stealing a person's dignity and basic rights.
Yeah. So I have a question on that. Yeah. So I mean, when you think of workers' rights and the violation of them, the first thing that comes to mind is like dignity. Obviously their own labor, how you're diminishing that, degrading them by lacking the provision of workers' rights.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to clarify the perspective of stealing, because I've never thought about it that way. I've never heard it talked about it that way, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
It's not only a degradation of the person, of their right, but also a theft, a thievery of their right.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's 2 in 1.
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
basically 2 in 1 because like, yeah, you can steal like a pen, but like you're also stealing someone's rights, and you can't just like steal like somebody's rights because
Yeah.
they work for you, but like you also have to respect them. As
And
a
that goes
human.
on to a deeper
Yeah,
level.
and it just keeps on going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But and then also, in the beginning of the Bible, in the first and second stories, it actually talks about the first book of the Bible, Genesis, and it talks about how the creation of earth and all these living things around us, and how we have to respect it. Not only that, God makes us stewards of His own creation, and then it's not that we don't have to expand like private property, even though it's like a thing in society. It's not
a biblical
Yeah,
teaching.
it's not
an actual concept that
it's-
we're supposed to follow.
It's more of a we have to respect this as
It's our own.
it's our
law.
own. Yeah,
It's the law we've created. But
Yes.
I'm trying to think of the specific word, but I remember in the book of Genesis when they're talking about when we're reading about the creation and the animals, and of course Adam and Eve. I forget the specific word, but it was something domain, and it was how like Adam and Eve have oversight over the animals and the creations, but that was like in a pure form, not in a the way in the past that we've had slavery and stuff like that. It was
treat
like
them with kindness and like
it was a
respect, not
protection of the animals,
like a gift from God that we're supposed to respect.
It was a gift, not an object, like we've done with even our own race, from humans to humans.
Yeah, and like again, we have to not truly subdue the earth, but not like in as a like controlling way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
And again, like I said, since like the dawn of times, it's just a lot of workers have been like kind of worked to death, and more of a modern time. You've seen the World Cup, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it was hosted in Qatar.
Qatar, that was a problem, correct?
Yeah, in Qatar. Yeah, it was a lot of immigrants from Southern Asia, I believe, and Eastern Asian countries, and they were brought over to Qatar to help build different stadiums for each game that was hosted. And
they get torn down right after.
Yeah, we got torn down. But the main part of what I'm trying to say is that there was workers that were immigrants, and they were kind of worked to death, and some of them actually died from falling off unstable.
Oh, I knew there was workers' rights issue. I wasn't aware that they died.
Yeah, some of them died, and it was just kind of like sad to see that if Qatar considers them part of Islam, Islamic,
the Islamic nations.
Yeah,
and
but like
those groups.
I feel like it's just like really sad to see that although everyone should be treated like the same, but it doesn't mean that they're from like a different country.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
everyone should be treated the same, but there was no mistake for sure that they took immigrants and had them do that kind of work. That was no mistake. That was intentional. And I also think now that we've gone from like the biblical perspective of it to the action in real life and how it pragmatically approaches everything, like the shoes I'm wearing, Nike's been in trouble for years for extremely underpaid labor or slave labor in southern African countries, and it's not just them; it's every major company. So it has effects even on us when we don't experience it.
And even more modern times, there's these websites called Shein and also Panda Buy. If you heard of them, they also have the Asian workers in Asian countries working for clothing and all these type of shoes, and they barely get paid any. They just get forced to make the clothing. And it's just a really barely maybe 1/3 of our even less of our minimum wage. Yeah. And it's also to further expand on this. I mean, also this all comes from capitalism, right? You know, obviously
sourced from that. Yeah,
and and again, capitalism is an economic system, and also it's cultural, right? You know, and it's also like a system that makes us try to get wealthy, right? Yeah. But also with that, it also comes greed, and also trying to trying to take advantage of others. And again, that's where it comes where people want to take the rights away of their workers. You know what I'm saying? Like just make me this, and I'll pay you this much. You know. Yeah. But it just comes from greed.
I think I have a question about the point that you were saying capitalism as an economic process, but also as a culture. Because especially in America, it's not just our economics; it's a culture. It's a culture. Like we have a consumer culture, and I feel like, at least in my opinion, the problems with workers' rights and all the issues we experience with that, while derived from the economic system, I feel like is more to blame to the cultural system. That culture and that greed that is fostered, which is of course a result of the economic system. I feel like that culture is where things start to really go downhill.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's go. And to further put this into the church's teachings, Pope Francis also had obviously a saying in this. He talked about, not only once, but he talked about the rights of workers many times. And not only himself, but the popes before him, Pope Benedict tried to also tie workers' rights with human ecology, and he also tried to also talk about migration, how I also talked about minorities from other countries coming to other countries, and kind of
The work.
diminishing, but then not only that, Pope Francis also tries to put it in perspective for those that don't understand, Jesus was a worker too, Joseph was a worker too, Jesus was a carpenter, and we have to put in consideration if we were a businessman and Jesus was a worker, we obviously we treat him with respect and stuff. So I just want to leave it off with there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, how it all gets summarized from the book of Genesis to our oversight over the creations and gifts from God to the real life effects in Qatar with Nike and stuff like that. I think it's interesting how that all ties in. Perfect.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. How long was that? 15 or 16.